I got a question. The cover of this month is Super Troopers. I love that movie. It is. I think what they did there was just so funny. And I have a house in Stowe, Vermont, and every town around it is a Bury Spurbury. You know, it's like Johnsonbury, all this stuff. And I'm always waiting for one of those guys to pull me over and go meow. So.
The green rush is real. From lawmakers and investment bankers to CEOs and investors, we'll look at how people are transforming cannabis from the shadows of the black market into a cash crop that draws in cannapreneurs from Hollywood to Wall Street. Here to help you navigate the business of cannabis, please welcome Lewis Goldberg and Ann Donahoe, brought to you by KCSA Strategic Communications.
Welcome to The Green Rush. I'm Lewis Goldberg, and I am usually joined by my co-host, Ann Donahoe, the hostess with the mostess. And yes, Ann, I said it again. Ann can't join me today. She's taking some well-deserved family time. So it's me, flying solo, interviewing George. Actually, can you pronounce your last name? Because if I get it wrong, I'm going to be so unbelievably embarrassed.
Sure, and you wouldn't be the first or the last. It's pronounced Jage, like Page with a J.
Okay, so George Jage, who is the CEO of Dope Magazine.
Correct.
Before we get into my conversation, George, I just want to ask the audience a quick favor. If you enjoy listening to these conversations that we're having here, if you enjoy learning about the cannabis industry, or more importantly, if you like the dulcet sounds of Ann's voice, clearly not mine because I'm more than a bit nasal, take a moment and subscribe to The Green Rush on iTunes, on Stitcher, or your favorite podcaster. Or podcatcher, and if you can, rate and review it. It really helps get it up the rankings a little bit, and that means that more and more people will be able to listen to us as we talk about this. So if you, my friends who are listening, are anywhere near my age, I'm 47. As I was growing up, there was no such thing as cannabis media. I mean, honestly, the only pot magazine that existed was High Times, and that was kind of back then a mix of Playboy and pot. And I can tell you, I was not reading High Times for the articles. But now there are plenty of cannabis companies out there that are media-like. There's the Green Market Report that was created by Deborah Borchardt, a former Forbes journalist, who, if you want to go back in the archives, you can hear that episode 3. There's New Cannabis Ventures that was founded and is now run by Alan Brockstein, who we talked to in episode 2. And today you've already heard George introduce himself, but we're talking to the CEO of Dope Magazine. Dope, if you don't know what it is the fastest growing cannabis media property around. And clearly one of the coolest media properties, regardless of what industry it's in. It was founded in 2011 by David Tran, Trek Holenagel, Evan Carter, James Zaccadini, and Nathan Keisler.
Zahondi.
I'm sorry? Zahondi, I'm sorry.
Yep, that's okay. I had a hard time with that one too, and I've got a tough last name to pronounce as well.
Yeah, so you guys have a national publication, 6 regional versions, more than 70,000 readers an issue. Dope is really just that. It is dope. The reporting's great. I love the reviews. It always tells me, what to try, what not to try. And it's not just that, it's much more of a cultural catalyst. And speaking of catalysts, before joining Dope, George was one of the main catalysts for the growth of the MJ Biz conferences, turning it really into the must-attend conference. But I am going to kind of channel Guy Raz for a moment and ask you, let's go back. You went to the University of Wisconsin, which is not really a state that is known as Weed Central back in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. You and I graduated same year, by the way, which is very cool. Yep. How did you get into the cannabis industry?
Well, that's a long story. I mean, if you want to go really far that far back, I mean, certainly, growing up as a fellow Gen Xer and understanding the permissive parenting that was going on at that time, I was supporting myself through high school and college with my herbal distribution business on the side. When I went to college, I actually was.
Is that herbal in quotes?
Yes, it is. You can throw in your own air quotes. They don't really work very well on radio, I understand. So, I mean, listen, when I grew up, marijuana was something that I participated in high school and in college. I had a lot of friends that enjoyed cannabis, and we were actually going to start a chapter of NORML at the time in Wisconsin. And actually Wisconsin has one of the longest running, kind of counterculture cannabis events, the Harvest Festival, that's held on State Street in Madison every year. So I would say that there's always been a lot of strong grassroots for a progressive agenda in Wisconsin, certainly as it comes to cannabis. But, regardless, I got out of college, I got to work. I ended up building a trade show company with my father out of college. It was really more out of necessity for him to have a place for his company. He was an off-price apparel wholesaler. So we created the Off-Price Specialist Show. We grew that from 20 companies in 1993 to over 450 companies in 1999. I actually started a tent structure company at the same time to create a facility for our own event. And it was really an exciting opportunity. I really kind of fell in love with trade shows because you can create this kind of, very exponential impact on people's lives. The commerce that's driven at that trade show helps people, pay their employees more. Those families are going to send their kids to better schools, and people are going to create the commerce that's going to drive the economy and really help out people. That is, again, very exponential. So from there, I was actually went to school at Marquette for my MBA, and I was going to move out to New York and go get a job on Wall Street. Unfortunately, I lost a very dear friend, and the Trade Center blew up, and nobody was moving to New York at that time.
I moved back, actually.
Yeah, and I've always been a contrarian. In retrospect, I kind of question why I didn't think that way then, that I shouldn't have moved there. But it was a difficult time for everybody in the country, and I don't think there was anybody that didn't have a friend or know somebody that lost a very dear friend in New York, and it was very tragic. So at that time, I needed to get out of Wisconsin. I decided to move to Las Vegas, which I had also spent a lot of time in producing events. And I started a couple of different businesses, none of them which were media related. And then somebody had asked me if there was a trade show for the tea industry, and it just kind of got stuck in my head. So I rolled the dice and started what became World Tea Media, and it was the largest trade show in the world for the tea industry, which is the second most drank beverage in the world next to water. We had a global tea competition. We had an online learning platform where people could become tea sommeliers, and a digital news platform. And again, just seeing the excitement and watching people's businesses flourish was really the exciting part of that. So I sold that business. I got hit hard in the recession like everybody else as a business owner in 2007 and 8, and I was able to stabilize the business, sell that to a company called F&W Media in 2012. And then from there, I ran their business for 2 years, launched another show called Healthy Beverage Expo, really focusing on the growth of the kind of the new age beverage category. And the owners of the company decided to kind of make a left turn more into consumer e-commerce. So it was a good time for me to separate and kind of part ways. That show's since been bought by Penton, who's now been bought by Informa, who's just recently got bought by UBM. So it's still doing well, as well as same with the Off-Price show, still doing well. And it was at that time I had a lot of people call me and ask me about starting a show for the cannabis industry. And they knew that I was going to be, kind of be available. And they knew me to be, I kind of carved out a little bit of a niche for myself as being kind of the early market niche media guy. And I was one of the youngest board members on Society of Independent Show Organizers for 6 years. World Tea Media was recognized as one of the top 50 fastest growing shows in 2006, 2008, and 2009. That was when I got, I was contacted by Ann Holland Ventures. They were looking for somebody to help them scale their business. They had done the last conference they did, I think, had about 20 tabletop exhibits at a racetrack in Seattle. And they were looking to really scale their business up into and grow, because they saw that the cannabis industry was starting to get a little bit more solidified. It was a little bit tepid in the first couple of years. They weren't really sure if it was going to go forward. Listen, it was a time in my life where I thought maybe, working with, somebody else's assets and growing them might be a more fun, prospect than necessarily, putting it all on the line myself. So I came on board with them, and listen, we had tremendous success there, and there is no doubt that a majority of that success is attributed to the wind in the sails of the industry. This industry has grown tremendously. It's about positioning, it's about marketing, it's about creating inertia and creating critical mass, and that's just, it wasn't that I was bringing any revolutionary practices to the event, but just bringing the discipline to create an event that really could scale up significantly, leveraging my relationships to get the show into the convention center.
Which, by the way, was this year was amazing. I mean,
yeah, it was
25,000 people. It was enormous. So I actually speak at some of these conferences. I haven't spoken at MJ Biz, but I have a standing slot with the Cannabis World Congress and Business Expo.
Sure.
Don't hate me. And I often will have arguments on stage with the audience about the issue of professionalizing the industry versus honoring its black market and advocacy roots. Back in 2015, you said there's a misperception that the only people at this event, MJ Biz, are hippies and stoners, but that there's a move towards sophistication and professionalization that is happening very rapidly in the industry. Do you feel that pull when you were with MJ Biz about the professionalization versus honoring the history of the industry?
Listen, I mean, that sounds like a really smart thing to say from a public relations standpoint. And at the time, it's very true. I mean, listen, I mean, I've seen a lot of people come into this industry saying, oh, and even today, like come in and say, oh, we're going to show the industry how to be professional. And there's clearly huge issues in the industry. I mean, there's a massive implosion going on with our industry association right now, and a lot of mudslinging going on. And there was somebody that posted a comment on one of the news stories saying, like, if you are really a truly a professional, you're not going to leave an organization and be throwing those types of verbal grenades. Otherwise, you never had their best interests at the start. Now, I think that what I love about this industry is that you have a lot of the people that came into this market very early that were literally willing to lose life or limb and in the form of federal asset seizure or imprisonment, and that really pioneered the space. And there's thousands of them, many of them nameless, and there's certainly some that are very well recognized, like the Steve D'Angelos and other people that have really kind of put themselves on the forefront of the movement. I absolutely think that those people are critical to the success of the business, but I saw a lot of them like that got into the space. I mean, some of them evolved very successfully into business professionals. Others, continue to operate their business like it was, kind of a side hustle, or it's kind of a street game. And I think those companies are going to continue to kind of dissipate in the industry. The amount of capital and the amount of expertise and the need to have a really excellent management team in place as a make or break factor. I mean, just the stakes are getting higher.
That's actually a really good place for us to take our first break. I'm Louis Goldberg. You are listening to the Green Rush podcast, and we are talking with George Jage.
More Green Rush coming up after we roll through our sponsors.
Introducing 420 Cloud, ignited by MSIG, one of the fastest growing social apps around. The only app you'll need for all things cannabis. Find the latest cannabis news, videos, and stories ranging from business and tech to sports and medicine. Start your career in cannabis by seeking, identifying, and applying for jobs through our expansive listings. For businesses, 420cloud.com features a full-scale cross-channel network, monetizing high traffic for big data conversion and analytics. Download 420 Cloud now from the iTunes Store or Google Play. MSIG.com is a publicly listed company on the OTC, symbol MCIG.
At Alternative Vibes, our core values of quality, loyalty, respect, and honesty guides us in our mission to help families find peace and harmony through our products and services. Whether you are looking for a more natural way of living, shopping essential oils, topicals, and edibles, or searching for a path towards achieving your goals, we are your choice. Learn more about our complete line of natural products and solutions at AlternativeVibes.com. Bringing quality of living to life. AlternativeVibes.com.
Oh, let the marijuana llama tell you something now about a game for your phone gonna make you say, wow! The game's about the game of growing cannabis for cash. Grow the seed, sell the bud, put the savings in the stash. Little by little, your empire grows large. Put the big celebrities inside your entourage. You can choose to play with Snoop or me or Cheech and Chong, Cypress Hill, Willie Nelson, Wiz Khalifa with a bong. The name of the game is Hemp Inc., that's the point. Download and play while you light yourself a joint. The business of cannabis should be no crime. Hemp Inc. is even hot-proved by the man who run High Times. Oh yeah? Get it on Android and iOS today. Marijuana llama out. Got to tend to me own crops, you know. Money don't make itself. Hemp Inc.
Dr. Eileen Karpfinger focuses on a diverse range of serious health issues and presents views ranging from those of patients and their loved ones to those of researchers and medical professionals. Empire, every Wednesday on demand, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Banking and Buds, understanding the business of cannabis. Welcome back to The Green Rush, only on CannabisRadio.com.
And we are back. George, God, there's so many, like this, I love this conversation. There's so much I want to ask you. So you know, last summer, you left MJ Biz in a bit of a cloud. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but just, has this all been cleared up?
No, not yet. Actually, it's coming to a head in the legal systems right now. Listen, I didn't leave on good terms with the owners of the business in any way, shape, or form, and that's unfortunate. I don't want to get into the details of the legal cases. They're public record anyways, and MJ Biz has taken the liberty of publishing it on their pulpit, and I've decided to remain, silent as far as responding to it at this point.
So you're taking the high road, unintended.
I try to, but it's hard sometimes. I'm also, kind of a scrappy fighter as well. So what it comes down to though is, things happen for a reason. I really value and really, really, truly appreciate all of the people that I had a chance to work with over there. I was just speaking on another platform the other day and talking about my just undying respect for people like Chris Walsh and Bart Shaneman and John Schroyer and the others that have really contributed to the journalistic integrity of that publication. And that voice really, again, on a business media asset, allows us to create the continuity and the community to leverage into creating a professional event. And listen, they're great. It's a great company. It's a great team. My differences with the owners of that company is a labor dispute that will be settled in court, and everybody can move on and be happy. And listen, I almost got down to a single-digit handicap this summer. So it gave me some time to reflect on what I want in life and where I want to go, and really kind of going into the consumer media space. All my experience has been in B2B business media, and so moving into the consumer media space, this is really my audience is exponentially larger. It's everybody, right? And specifically who we're trying to target, that wants to kind of partake in a cannabis quote lifestyle. And here's the thing that really got me excited about joining the team at Dope. I've known Dave and James and the team there for some time. I've seen them operate in the market. They've got a reputation of being the cool kids and being the hipsters in the industry. I think they've got a really clever brand. I think the brand itself has some, limitations to its appeal geographically and generationally, but it's still a strong brand. And what people don't always understand.
Right now your geography is just basically Mountain West and West Coast. Correct. But you've got states like Massachusetts and Maine coming online. Pennsylvania as a medical state. New Jersey is everybody's thinking it's going to be rec soon. What are your plans to go east?
Yeah, so right now we're actually doing a capital raise, and this is where the business, again, what attracted to me is that it's an authentic brand, and you look at where media companies succeed, it's with that authenticity. Whether it's a Rolling Stone or Vanity Fair or a Vice Media or a Barstool Sports, that's where we're trying to target. So. Right now what we have is very West Coast. That's where the market has lived for a long time. And my job right now is to help build the infrastructure and the business for us to scale. These guys grew so fast over the last 5 years. Our year-over-year revenue growth was 90% on average for the last 5 years. This is a phenomenal success story.
It did start at a smaller base, so it is unbelible.
Yeah, it is.
70,000 readers a month is nothing to snap.
Well, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We distribute 70,000 copies a month to our retail partners, and it's a free publication. One of the things we're going to be focusing on is building out our paid circulation so that people don't have to worry about getting to the dispensary or the retailer to pick up a free copy, or if they get there later in the month and they're all gone, that they have one at the door each and every month. And listen, I mean, it's about brand reach. And if I look at the combined social media followers, unique email addresses, total unique visitors to our website, total paid and print and free circulation, total event attendance, I mean, our brand reach is around 650,000 people a month. And
can you talk about events? Because your history has been as a media company leading with events to support the media, but Dope is a media first property, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and listen, I mean, I've had this conversation many times in my lifetime that I'm kind of labeled as the events guy. There is nothing cooler. There is nothing cooler than seeing people come together and create successful relationships that result in commercial success, personal success, professional success. And when you see that happen live, like, people don't do business with companies. They do business with people. And getting them face to face is a critical part of accelerating commerce in any industry. So when you look at my business media asset experience, I mean, almost universally, you're generating, probably anywhere from 80 to 90% of your total, business revenues from your events, and everything else on a media and a content marketing platform is to create community and connectivity to that audience so that you can get them to your events over the course of the year. Now, everybody's business is different, and I'm speaking obviously back from my World Team Media days, and when I look at a consumer media asset, I mean, we're going to have a much more balanced approach. Now, Dope has done a phenomenal job creating some really compelling events. And, one was their Dope Cup, which is very similar to other assets that are out there that High Times and Emerald Cup and other groups have. But what we've done is we've actually partnered with scientific-based, groups like the Trichome Institute to actually create a scientific methodology to the testing process and the evaluation process of cannabis. I mean, it's kind of a tough product to test because, after you test the first one, you're going to be influenced on testing the next one. It's not like wine where you can sip it and spit it out, right?
By the way, I'd be happy to be a judge. Just saying.
Signing you up right now. All right. So, and then we have our Dope Industry Awards, which is also, it's a black tie event. It's an opportunity to really celebrate the tastemakers and the difference makers in the industry. And it's about, recognizing the best staff, at retailers, because those are the people on the front lines, or the best bud tender, or the best advocate, or the best, association, best brands in the market, and that type of innovation. And I think, those have both been very successful events for us. We've also done our golden ticket parties. We had one in Las Vegas. We, I think, had close to 3,000 people at. It was a pretty intense party, and that's just kind of a taste of where I'm going to be scaling things. We've got very, very big plans for our events in 2018, but I don't want to go too much in the details of our secret sauce.
So, but you raised another name when you were talking, which is High Times. I mean, is there enough space in the market for two, cultural media companies like you and High Times, or how are you going to take them on?
There's dozens and dozens of them. So listen, when it comes down to it, there's two, maybe three fully integrated consumer media assets. There's us, High Times, and Sensi's, been doing a great job. And their business model, I know Tay and Ron over there really well. Their business model is vastly different than ours. High Times is a legacy brand that catered to a black market. They've got a lot of work to reposition themselves as a mainstream brand. And I'm in favor. I'm rooting for them. I hope they're successful. But at the end of the day, we are offering a really, truly unique value proposition, because with our regionalization and state-driven, regional editions of our magazine, we can work with advertisers while the market is still bifurcated along the state lines, that we can work with advertisers so that they can create an advertising campaign just in the state that they're licensed to do business in. And we can geo-target the digital advertising, we can regionalize their print advertising, and it gives us tremendous scalability as a publisher to be able to do that, where we can generate, we can offer a very low-cost ad in the back of the magazine, but I actually, when I'm looking at my book, I'm actually getting 8 times that ad revenue from my ad page yield. So it creates really, really exciting dynamics from both the advertiser and the client side, as well as, from a pro forma and financial standpoint for our business. Now, again, there is a lot of blue ocean and east of the Mississippi. We've got some very big plans to move out there, and it's Massachusetts, it's Michigan, it's Ohio, it's Pennsylvania, it's Illinois, it's Michigan, Florida, Texas. I mean, there's some very big, New York and New Jersey. I mean, there's the population base in the East Coast. They're going to completely disrupt and change the way that this industry is managed, I think, from what has evolved to date. And you're going to see a lot of consolidation efforts, I think, are going to be initiated by the East Coast companies gobbling up the West Coast companies.
So let's take another break. You are listening to The Green Rush, and I am talking with George Jage, and we will be back in a moment.
More Green Rush coming up after we roll through our sponsors.
Oh, let the marijuana llama tell you something now about a game for your phone gonna make you say, wow! The game's about the gamer growing cannabis for cash. Grow the seed, sell the bud, put the savings in the stash. Little by little, your empire grows large. Put the big celebrities inside your entourage. You can choose to play with Snoop or me or Cheech and Chong, Cypress Hill, Willie Nelson, Wiz Khalifa with a bong. The name of the game is Hemp Inc., that's the point. Download and play while you light yourself a joint. The business of cannabis should be no crime. Hemp Inc. is even hot-proofed by the man who run High Times. Oh yeah? Get it on Android and iOS today. Marijuana llama out. Got to tend to me own crops, Money don't make itself. Hemp Inc.
What do master growers, dispensary owners, extraction artists, and infusion chefs all have in common? They'll all be in Denver, Colorado at NCIA Seed the Sales Show, February 7th and 8th. Don't miss a chance to learn alongside 3,000 of the cannabis industry's best and brightest in 3 highly focused tracks about cultivation, infused products and extractions, and business strategies and innovation. Network and shop for all of your business needs across 40,000 square feet of expo floor. NCIA Seed the Sales Show, seedthesaleshow.com.
The next generation of vaporizers has arrived. Vuber vaporizers are blazing the way with unparalleled technology for oil, concentrate, or dry flower pens. Providing unsurpassed customer service and expert craftsmanship, Vuber vaporizers use cutting-edge technology, providing a power-packed, smoother vapor with a lifetime guarantee. Experience vaporizing the way it was meant to be. The Vuber way.
Learning the benefits of proper nutrition, supplementation, and personal development to live a healthy and abundant life. Awaken, adjust, and aspire. High on Healthy. Mondays on demand. Only on CannabisRadio.com.
Banking and Buds, understanding the business of cannabis. Welcome back to The Green Rush, only on CannabisRadio.com.
So we are back. This is Louis Goldberg. You're listening to The Green Rush. I'm talking with George Jage, the CEO of Dope Magazine. So going back in your life a bit, you made tea cool. There probably wouldn't have been Tivana or a lot of the other.
He used to come to my show to buy all his products. And then he sold it all to Starbucks for, I think, was it $650 million?
It's just a cool bajillion.
I didn't get any of that, unfortunately.
But but cannabis is already cool, right? I mean, you walked into an industry that everybody loves. Yeah. So what are you adding? What is the George Jage sauce?
Oh man, I don't know if there's a George Jage sauce or not. I mean, it's just I love creating success. I love building businesses. I love building teams, and I love being able to create, the kind of connectivity that helps businesses succeed in commerce, right? And on the consumer side now, it's an opportunity to really, create pathways for people to engage in the category. And again, looking at the Dope model, I mean, the way that we've built our magazine, where each issue is kind of its own kind of sub-lifestyle magazine, where it's, a travel issue, an art issue, or a music or entertainment or food or technology, and gives us the opportunity to really kind of talk about people in those spaces that have a relationship with cannabis. And it might not be a direct relationship. Elliot Sloan, who is X Games gold medalist and was on our cover, I think in October. He doesn't use cannabis, but his parents do. And, they're at a point in their life where it helps them significantly with some of the medicinal benefits. And it's kind of fascinating to kind of normalize the conversation where there's everyday people that have a relationship with cannabis and kind of making it go mainstream.
That's really cool. And I didn't know that about Elliot. And by the way, that name has resonance. I'll tell you some other time about that name because it has meaning to me. We work in a weirdly regulated space, right? You've got states and localities that are saying, yes, go ahead, go forth and be prosperous. And then you have Voldemort in D.C., Jeff Sessions, seemingly waiting to pounce. How do you look at this?
He's more like a house elf, don't you? Like he's like that grumpy house elf in that
Harry Potter?
Sirius Black's house. Yeah, not Voldemort so much. But anyways, go ahead.
He's pretty bad, or whatever we want to call him. We can assign him any name you want. He's but what he is, he's there's this overhang from him. When you're talking to mainstream brands, not cannabis brands, about advertising, how do you talk or wend your way through this regulatory minefield?
Well, I think that it's just a matter of time and understanding. So there's some very fundamental things that I'm doing with our brand and our business to position it. But we have engaged, mainstream brands. I'd like to, give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Prana. And advertisers. I mean, they are rolling out a tremendous line of hemp-based clothing. They feel that advertising in our magazine to consumers who are, friendly with cannabis are going to understand that having hemp clothes is pretty cool. We have our active issues again. We can be, talking about how people are using, cannabis, in their yoga practice as a way to kind of get out of their head and inside their bodies, right?
Yep.
So I think that the opportunities are there. I mean, you've got Jack in the Box coming out with their munchie meal. Certainly I would love to get them on as an advertiser. We're working on it. And I think there's a huge connectivity to the, electronic arts and video game industry for us to be able to, really help companies, launch new products. I mean, there's a tremendous correlation to people who like to smoke pot and play video games.
Really?
Really?
Oh,
I didn't make that up.
I think we're at the point in the show that everybody has been waiting for, which is Puff Puff Pass, where we ask our guests, you specifically, quickly name two things that you absolutely love about this industry and one thing that's driving you nuts.
So the two things that I love the most about this industry is the absolute complete innovation of cannabis from the old days of getting a bag where it's half filled with seeds and rolling joints or smoking out of a pipe. I mean, just the innovation, the technology, and the delivery methodology, from across the board in cannabis. It's just love the innovation. The other thing I love the most is hemp, and I'm just excited. I'm not focused on hemp from a business perspective, but a personal perspective. I mean, when you look at the potential industrial applications that could significantly, impact harm done to our environment through hemp, it is phenomenal. It's important, and hopefully, it's kind of a little bit of a paradigm or a catch-22 because so much of our hemp production is being processed for CBD oil, which is in such high demand that a lot of that hemp isn't being used for industrial applications. So, and I think the thing that I want to pass on is just this is an industry that is absolutely abound with hubris. I mean, like when I came in 4 years ago, like I think the first 50 people I met, everybody had to say that they were the first ones to ever do this, the only ones to ever do that. You've got people saying they're, the Martha Stewart or the Salesforce or the Walmart or the Costco of cannabis. And I always like to say, be yourself, everybody else is taken. So, I just think that, listen, we're all in this together. Everybody can contribute, kind of in each to their own abilities and their own needs and really be able to create a successful industry with a lot of respect for everybody else.
That was great. And by the way, I like the reference to Marx there at the end.
Yeah, sorry.
It's fine. It's fine.
I grew up in Milwaukee. We're the only city in North America that actually elected a socialist mayor.
Yeah, well, but we've got the Democratic Socialist in Vermont, which is my favorite. Yeah. You're talking about stems and seeds. There's a great song by an old dead kind of cover band called Juggling Sons from the '90s called "Stems and Seeds." So it really made me laugh.
Good.
So we're at the end here. I want to thank George for joining us. If you have no idea who I am, I'm Louis Goldberg. You've been listening to The Green Rush. I've been talking to George Jage, the CEO of Dope Magazine. If you have not read Dope or gone on their website or seen any of their content or gone to any of their events, you are missing out. It is truly captures the pulse of the cannabis industry. Again, I would ask you, if you can, subscribe. Click that little button up there on the right that says subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. Rate and review. It really helps us. And we had mentioned Dr. Sue Sicily on the last episode. We're going to mention her again.
She rocks.
She is amazing.
She rocks.
If you, the listeners, don't know who she is, Google her. She is the preeminent researcher who is working to use cannabis to help treat PTSD. If you're a vet listening to this, we will put a link in the show notes on how to reach out to her. What she is doing is important, and it is our pleasure. More importantly, it's our responsibility to call her out.
Can I jump on a soapbox on Sue Sicily or Dr.
Yeah,
Sue
of course.
Sicily real quick? I mean, that is, it's one of the most shameful things, because so much money has been spent to research the negative effects of cannabis during the kind of Nixon, misguided war on drugs effort. The work she's doing, and I don't know if she has on her website to accept donations, but anywhere you can help support any of the medical and clinical research on cannabis. It is whole plant medicine. It has tremendous health benefits, and we need to have the science to back it up so that it can accelerate the federal end of federal prohibition.
Amen. So, hey, I have an idea for everybody listening here. How about emailing us a question? You can email us at thegreenrush@kcsa.com. I want to give a special shout out to Nick Opich for being the single best associate producer, the very first time we've had this single best associate producer, and for Brasco, the man, the myth, over the top rope producer of this show. Thanks for listening. We don't take you, the listeners, for granted. And George, thank you for being so generous with your time.
Oh, Louis, it's an honor, and I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you.
The opinions expressed on this CannabisRadio.com program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of CannabisRadio.com. Any rebroadcast or redistribution without proper consent of CannabisRadio.com is prohibited.